Good morning, friends. So it's, well, fairly early. It's 9:30 on Wednesday morning. I leave for Srinagar tomorrow night, Thursday evening. But I thought I'd come out here. This is an old complex and the centerpiece and one of the tallest buildings in India is the Qutb Minar. The Qutb Minar is a minaret of Muslim architecture that is just over 800 years old. As you can see, a favorite of school tour groups. It was constructed between 1199 and 220 AD. There was, at the time, the Mughal invasion happened because the Mongols were invading Central Asia, Persia, and all the way down. And so, to escape the Mongol invasion, the Muslims, the Mughal Empire that were to be, invaded, emigrated, took over Delhi, and constructed some really quite fantastic buildings. And the Qutb Minar is by far the most impressive. Started off quite a revolution in architecture, actually. It has 399 steps. I'm not sure if such an almost round number was intentional or not, but it's really very, very tall. I'm gonna get my steps in. Anyway, I'm just gonna go on a brief walk around the porticos that surround the minaret, and then I will have have a little bit of food, a little bit of water, and then start climbing. That's quite nice. Modern maintenance, sign your work. I like that. Welcome, my friends, to Qutb Minar. This is, I believe, the tallest tower in India, which is saying quite a lot, actually. It's a minaret that dates back to the very beginnings of the Mughal Empire here in India. It was constructed between 1199 and 1220 CE and is 72.5 meters tall. It's a very impressive edifice. Of course, being a minaret, so essentially a tower for the muezzin in Islam to climb up to the top and call the faithful to worship 5 times per day. It has 399 steps inside. Apparently you can't climb it since 1984 to preserve to preserve it. It's a fantastic structure. Apparently, the Mongols were invading all the way through Persia and Asia Minor. And so the Mughal people invaded India, conquered it, took it over. And that was the beginning of the Mughal Empire that's existed right up until the Raj era in the late 18th and early 19th century. You have to think that at the time, it's a little bit like St. Paul's Cathedral in London. When St. Paul's Cathedral was completed, it was the dominant structure in London. When Queen Victoria took the throne in 1800, it just dominated and dwarfed the London skyline. Most London buildings and residences at the time, after the reconstruction after the Great Fire, and from then on for the next 150 years, 140 years, only went up about 4 stories, whereas St. Paul's Cathedral, of course, is massive. And so the skyline would be like that. This is a very similar kind of kick. It was essentially the centerpiece of the new Muslim Mughal communities that surrounded this area. This place is quite considerably south of Delhi. You've got Old Delhi, then you've got New Delhi, and then below that's where we are right now. So it is quite far out of town to the south. It's not out of town, it's on the outskirts of town. But as I say, dominating the skyline for a very long way around. Even today, there isn't that much around here, and so it stands out even more. But yeah. The mosque structures around here, the mosques, the madrasas, the palace, are among the very, very oldest Islamic structures in India for obvious reasons. It was the first place that the Mughal Empire came. When they were they left their own homeland essentially to avoid the Mongols, as most people wanted to do, and cut through to the south and eventually took over the entire subcontinent. But it's among the oldest. Qutb Minar is, we think, named for Qutb al-Din al-Bak, who was the earliest Mughal emperor. We're not absolutely certain, because there is another guy called Qutb 100 years later. Qutb al-Din al-Bak was the guy who had this commissioned. He did die when the first level had been completed, but then it rose and rose and rose and rose until it reached its current level. There was a man called Smith, Brigadier General Smith, one of the not so nice guys who was running the Raj, and he took it upon himself. I mean, with, I suppose, good intentions from a certain point of view, to apply himself to maintaining and restoring the structure. Then the arrogant bastard decided to add a level to it. So essentially to imprint his, and by association, the British Empire's mark on such an important edifice. That was removed shortly after the Raj, and it has been preserved. I'll swing by it in a while. It's referred to as Smith's Folly. So, yes. Anyway. There have been 2 major earthquakes that have damaged the minaret. 1505, which obviously is still a very long time ago, and again in 1803. 1803 was quite a severe amount of damage, and that is when Robert Smith took it upon himself to restore it and ill-advisedly try and add a few stories to imprint his own legacy on such an important monument. Oh my god. Oh, there we go. It's an amazing complex. But yes. I'll zoom a little more when I get closer. But I hope that you can make out the Arabic script that bans the minaret all the way to the top. Passages from the Holy Quran, of course, but primarily the declaration, which is the first pillar of Islam. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. I've got to say, man, it is absolutely beautiful in the morning sun. Now, I'm on a little bit of a clock here because I had intended to come out here on Sunday. My day off, of course. But my teething problems, shall we say, with obtaining a ticket at the time to Amritsar, which have since been resolved. My God, this is rather precarious path. And so I'd intended to come out here then. I couldn't because I was trying to sort out my next destination and all of that. So I came out here this morning. Today is Wednesday morning. My 7 o'clock class, which of course for me is 11:30, is just under 90 minutes away. And I am, by tuk-tuk, a good 45 minutes out of town here. So I'm leaving an hour. So I've only got about 25 minutes left, about an hour here total, which is a little bit shorter than I might have liked. But this is what we have to do with our lives. So yeah. Anyway. So what we have here, abutting the central courtyard, is really a very impressive tomb of Saint Imam Muhammad Ali, better known in these parts as Imam Zahim. It's really very nice indeed. Apparently, the man himself had performed a number of very, very important duties in the local area when it came to the proliferation, if you like, of Islam. And he was laid to rest here upon his death in 1539. There are so many school tour groups here, it's super fun. Anyway. It's actually kind of fun because the airport is very close to this location, and so you have mostly descending aircraft coming in for their landing directly over the minarets. It's a little bit like Shwedagon Pagoda in Myanmar, in Yangon, where if you're coming in to land, it's just right there, you know? A little bit more spectacular, mind you, but still. Good morning, Beth. So here I am at Qutb Minar, one of the earliest Mughal structures in India, constructed 1199 until 1220 CE, and it's really very impressive. 72.5 meters tall. Yeah, I think it's the tallest tower in India. And at the time, it was the centerpiece of the nascent Muslim community in this area, because the guys who built it, the Mughals, had just come down from Persia and the Near East, and to escape the Mongols, apparently. So let's get out of here. Let's go and conquer those guys, like that. Anyway, darling, I hope you're still sleeping very well. Right behind me there is a historical oddity, because that iron pillar predates this entire complex by a very long time. We are talking 4th century CE. It's a bit of a historical oddity because there are no other contemporary artifacts with that pillar in this complex or anywhere near it. Now, theories state that it could have been a spoil of war because it has a Brahmi, so 4th century Sanskrit, inscription dedicating itself to Lord Vishnu himself. So, old school Hindu. Now, like I say, this entire complex was built in the early 13th century, so until 1220 CE. But that predates it by 600 years. So no one knows really why it's here, but it could be rapprochement, placing a Hindu dedication in such an important Islamic site. It could be rapprochement, making nice with the locals, that kind of thing, which is a nicer idea than a spoil of war, I think. There's a nice juxtaposition of the pillar and the minaret, which I assume is why it was put there. Anyway. You can see quite clearly here where very sympathetic repairs have been made all up and down the structure to maintain it. And just as earlier, signing their work. But so that there is original, these parts have been, I think, put in with concrete and then carved, although perhaps some are prefab slabs that were put in. But yeah, we have to maintain these things for future generations and hopefully thousands of years. I very much hope, of course, that, some nice traveller like myself, maybe in a rocket car, comes here in 1,000 years' time. Who knows? Right, so I'm getting short here, so I'm going to walk back to the car park and meet up with my boys Manu and Mohinder. I met a very nice man, Pal, on my second day here, and it was the 31st of January, you understand, so we went for drinks and had some food, and he's hooked me up with trustworthy, decent friends of his to bring me out here at this time of the day for a very cost-effective price. So yeah, nice times. I do live for mornings like this, I really do. Yeah. Right, must pull myself away though because it's approaching 10:25 and I have to work for 5.5 hours in 1 hour's time. Anyway, I'm having a good day.